Hello and welcome to Please Suck Less podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, David Polikoff. Hello and welcome to this episode of Please Suck Less. I'm your host, David Polikoff. For those that know me, know that for the longest time, I would always tongue-in-cheek my comments of, hey, remember to stop sucking, or when I talk to somebody on the phone, I'd always say, hey, what are you doing besides sucking? So the more and more that I thought about it, why do we have leaders that just suck? And we can look at many examples, starting from our political field with our country's Congress. I mean, it's obvious we are not sending the smartest people to Congress, and why would smart people want to go there? All the way down to your business, whether you're in a white-collar job and you're the boss, or in the fire department, or in the military. Even though I never did any time in the military, I have lots of friends that are in the military. We all know what crappy bosses look and sound like. So how do we fix that problem without looking like we're insubordinate? Well, first things first, for people that call themselves leaders, one of the biggest things that we hear in the fire service is, you're micromanaging me, stop micromanaging me. So when you're looking at the thought of that person's micromanaging me, as a subordinate, you need to ask, why is that person doing what they're doing? Maybe they don't trust me. What have I done to not gain their trust? Now, I can be honest with you, there's just leaders out there that suck and they don't know how to lead. We can trace that all the way back to, were they ever taught to be a leader? Many times on my other podcast, we always get into officer development. I don't think we do a good job developing our officers to be future leaders. Hell, we don't even do a good job getting these recruits out of recruit class and then focusing not only on learning the skills for the next year, but setting them up to be future leaders in the fire service. And the same holds true for your business. You get hired in an entry-level position. If that is the company that you want to move up in, then the leaders of those companies, the bosses or whoever, managers, they need to start working on people taking jobs and moving forward in the business. Same holds true for the fire service. So let's talk a little bit about micromanaging. A lot of it stems from one of two things. Either it's a trust issue where they don't trust their employees, or it's an incompetence issue on the manager's part where they don't trust their skill set. So let's focus a little bit on the manager's aspect to that. If you work your way up through the ranks so quick that you never had a chance to learn the job that, to learn the job that you're in whole and then be able to move up through the ranks, you're never going to be an effective leader. Not only that, you're not going to trust your own skills, whether it be conscious or subconscious. You're not going to trust yourself to be a good leader. So the way you mask that is you start to project your issues onto your people. Eventually, that's going to cause low morale, and you'll never gain the respect of your people. So how do we fix that? Well, first and foremost, spend time in each rank. Learn the job, learn the craft. If you're afraid to put on your gear and put on your SCBA and crawl down a hot, smoky hallway, you have no business being in the fire service. If you're a police officer, if you don't recognize the fact that you will have to pull your weapon and you will have to use it in service, then you have no business being a police officer. Same holds true as a soldier. If you're not going to defend this country, you have no business being in the position that you're in. Same thing holds true for businesses. As the boss, if you're not training your people to eventually take your job one day, your business is going to fail. So we'll talk a little bit about micromanaging, and we'll talk a little bit about bosses that don't have the skill set to lead. first and foremost, they shouldn't be in that position. We all know that you take a test in the fire service, you get placed on a list, you go by seniority, you get promoted. That person could have been a turd their entire career, and they're not going to get any better when they become, into the upper ranks, whether it be lieutenant, captain, or chief. So how does a boss fix that? First and foremost, they need to be asking questions. Talk to your peers. Don't be afraid to talk to members that are in a lower rank to you. A lot of people come to the table with good information. So learn from the people that are around you. Learn from the people that are above you. Ask questions. It's okay not to know something. People will respect you more if you can honestly say that I don't have the answer to that, but I'm going to go find out. Firefighters are so smart. They know when you're going to fake it. And if you start faking it and you start lying, they're going to call you on it. They may not say anything verbally, but for the rest of your career, you're not going to gain that respect. So as a leader, it's okay not to know something. Ask questions. Go find the answers. Be honest. Be consistent. One of the issues that I've seen with inconsistency, especially when I was coming up through the ranks as a firefighter, you'd have a dual service house, maybe an engine in a truck, or maybe an engine in a rescue squad, whatever. You had two officers in the station. Usually you would have a higher ranking officer like a captain, and then you'd have a lower ranking officer like a lieutenant. And when both officers there, you would see that lieutenant kind of be the company man and want to be buddies with the firefighters and the technicians that were on the shift. But the moment that captain was off and that lieutenant stepped into that role of being in charge of the entire company, their whole demeanor, their whole attitude changed. They turned into a dick. They started pressing rules that they don't even follow when the captain's there. That's inconsistent, and you are never going to gain respect. So my advice to you is be true to who you are. If you want to follow the rules, and you follow the rules all the time. Sometimes you can't be buddies with your subordinates. You need to be an officer. You need to be a leader. You need to be somebody that they can come to if they have an issue. But if you're so inconsistent that you're a buddy and a friend and goofing off and talking behind the captain's back when he's there, and then when he's gone, you're a totally different person, you're never going to gain the respect of your peers. So consistency is the key. With consistency, that breeds respect. People know who you are. You're authentic. But the moment you try to be something you're not, they're going to call you on it. When it comes to what we talked about earlier with micromanaging, you're not, you don't have the faith in your own skills, so you start looking for issues in other people. You may not be proficient at rope work or whatever. That's fine. There may be people on the shift that are. Get with them. Have them give a drill. You don't have to always give the drill just because you're the officer. When it comes to micromanaging and you as the subordinate or the firefighter, and you're looking at your officer and you constantly feel like they are controlling your every move, don't be afraid to approach that person and have a conversation with them. There's a trust issue somewhere. Maybe you did something that you didn't even know you did, or maybe they saw you do something and it was a miscommunication. You need to get it out in the open. You need to be adult enough to be able to talk to people and find out exactly what the issue is, iron it out, and move forward. Because when we're on the fireground, we don't have time to try to correct every single thing that's happening on the fireground, calling people on the radio, constantly asking them what they're doing, trying to make these small moves. When you just let your people go, you let them do their job, and you'll find that these people, these firefighters, these captains, these lieutenants, they're going to perform pretty well on the fireground. And if you just let your people do what they need to do, they're going to come back and they're going to make you look good with you really not having to say a lot on the radio. What irks me more than anything in the world is listening to these chief officers arrive on the scene and they constantly talk. It even starts before they get on the scene. They're talking on the radio coming down the road. They're trying to make maneuvers coming down the road. They don't see what the big picture is. Sometimes you even hear them calling people out on the radio because they didn't like something that they said. When they arrive on the scene, they can easily clean that up. Perfect example is, you give a good on-scene report. You paint that picture, that's the end of the story. You want to get a 360. There are times where, with what I tell my people, when you do a 360, you need to be looking at a lot of stuff. But what I want to hear on the radio is there a basement? How do you get into that basement if you can? What are the conditions in the basement? What are the conditions of the structure from the side that I can't see from the street? That's the information I want. I can find out when I get on the scene where the utilities are, have they been controlled, and all that other little stuff. But you get these chief officers that are going down the road, and the moment the call comes in, they're talking on the radio, they're second guessing the things that you're doing, they're trying to run the call while they're driving down the road. It can't be done. Have faith in your people. Do the training in the beginning. You should front load your expectations of what you expect when they are in the station, when they're training, when they're going to be in uniform, and when they're operating on emergency scenes. All those expectations need to be front loaded. That keeps you from yapping on the radio continuously when it all ends up being food on the stove and you can hold it with an engine in a truck. But you've talked on the radio for the first 20 minutes of that call, nobody can get a word in edgewise. Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of Please Suck Less. Yes, it's going to be kind of a rant. These are things that come to my head that I want to get out because it's very frustrating just seeing the things that I've seen over the years and not be able to kind of get them in one area and push them out to people. You may not agree with what I have to say, and frankly, I don't care. I just want to get what I have to say out there. If you agree, great. You can leave a review on your podcast listening platform or not. Either way, thanks again for listening. I'm Dave Polikoff.